everybody, this is Brian Ankney with Auto Success Magazine. I appreciate you all taking the time to join us today. Today my guest is Latif Qadri from the Best Direct Group. If you look at your screen right now, you do see me, but you also will see Latif. Latif is standing there in front of a fountain in beautiful sunny Orlando, Florida. This is the cover of the magazine that will be hitting your dealership in the next few days. Latif's on the cover of the July issue of Auto Success. Keep an eye out for it. It'll be in your mailbox sometime in the next few days. Now, I'd like to thank you all for taking the time to join us today for this Auto Success webinar. Today we're going to talk, it's in a little different direction than we've taken as of late. We're going to kind of talk about what the cover was, but we're going to expand upon it a lot. In this month's feature solution, we talk, bus to blue sky. And what's that mean? A dealership in Kentucky, in Pikesville, Kentucky, in fact, where just about everybody works in the coal industry, found themselves in some really hard times. And the really hard times were due to, our changing economy, our changing energy, sources, dependence, and regulations. And, they had a lot of people out of work, and they were, really in a hard spot. We're going to talk about some of the things they did to overcome that and, in fact, do better business than they did when coal was booming. But before we get started, before I hand the reins a little bit over to Latif and start asking him some questions about how this all took place, I'd like to go over a couple things with you. First of all, if you'd like to ask a question, there's a couple ways you can do that. You can raise your hand, and I'll let you ask a question, or which most people choose to do, there's a question functionality. Now, depending on your device, you either have a laptop, a tablet, or a PC. That's the easiest way. You've got a pane going down the right side of your screen. It's the GoToWebinar pane. Near the bottom, it says questions. There's a little arrow pointing at questions. Click on that. It'll expand. It gives you a place to type in questions, hit enter. Your question's been submitted. Now, if you're on a smartphone, some other mobile device, because there are different operating systems and different manufacturers, there are some different interfaces. You've either got a header, a footer, or a picture frame that goes all the way around. Now, somewhere in that header, footer, or picture frame, you're going to see a question mark. Touch the question mark, and it will open up the area for you to type in your question. Now, from there, occasionally it's a little tricky. Most devices, you can just swipe it, and it goes away, and you're back to the webinar. Other devices, you have to find another icon. It looks like a flat screen desktop monitor. You tap that, and it brings you back to the webinar. Now, I have heard from some of our attendees in the past that sometimes that's a little confusing. They get kicked out. Now, here's the good news. No matter for what reason you get kicked out, even if you have to take a phone call and move the screens and you get kicked out, no matter what type of device you're on, the link you use to join us today will bring you back. If you're using a telephone to dial in, the number and the code that you use will bring you right back. So please use the link and the phone number to join us again if you happen to get kicked out. Now, one last thing before we kick off this webinar with Latif is if you have not joined Auto Success Webinars yet on Facebook, please do. It's a group. In that group, you can interact with me. You can interact with our speakers, our Auto Success staff. You can suggest topics, speakers, anything you'd like to see here. And most importantly, you can interact with each other. That's the greatest value in this group because we talk about some pretty complex topics. There's nothing you're going to hear about on an Auto Success webinar that you can flip a switch and change your business. They all have some steps. Anything that is going to change your business probably requires a little bit of work. And as you work through those processes, I invite you to share with each other your successes and failures. And then hopefully we can all achieve our goals a little quicker. With that being said, I'd like to introduce Latif. Latif, please turn on your webcam and say hello to our audience today.
All right, let's see. How do we get this going here? Let's see.
It's at the top left, a little camera.
There we go.
All right.
Hey, guys.
Hey, looking good, man.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. I figured I'd clean up for the webinar.
Well, you know what? I don't have as beautiful of an office as you. I'm not in beautiful Orlando, Florida. However many floors you are up with a floor-to-ceiling glass. That's a heck of a view you got.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Although, you know what? It's not really a glamorous view. You can't make it out, but it's the I-4 artery that's right behind me. So, really, if you look out the window, it's nothing but traffic all day. So, all the pretty views, the high-rent district is that way.
Oh, nice. Well, hey, I wanted to ask you, Deskins Motors, they found themselves in a really hard position. The coal industry was laying people off like crazy. They found themselves with, super high unemployment. A lot of their people were underemployed, the ones that were employed. At the same time, the credit crunch was going on. I mean, it just seemed like every single lever that could have been pulled that could have hurt their business was being pulled at once. How did you get involved with this dealership, and what did you see when you first got there?
Well, I got to tell you, it was first of all, Southeast Kentucky, Pike County especially. I mean, it is just beautiful. I mean, if you could just picture like the most pristine, beautiful mountains. I mean, there was a river that ran behind the dealership. I mean, just awesome, picturesque. I mean, it's kind of like the place you want to go on vacation or retire when you're ready to call it a day, right? So I mean, it's this beautiful country, and the people were just as sweet as could be. I was teed up to the deal from a friend of a friend type of situation. He was doing some business with them in a different segment, and I ended up getting involved in the deal, and went up there and checked the place out. The first thing, like I said, that struck me was just kind of the natural beauty. But then as you kind of went off the main strip and you kind of drove around, you could see that small mom and pop businesses were shut down, with the exception of a handful of your Walmarts, Home Depots, that type of stuff. There really wasn't a whole lot of anything happening. As far as any kind of independent business activity, you could tell that you were really in a depressed marketplace. When I had gotten up there, it had probably been 2 or 3 years, and probably 2 years into the recession at that point, and you could really see that the area had taken a hit. As I became a business partner, friends with with the Deskins family, I really kind of got a full view of what that area, the town and the county was like. And they had had that store for 45, 50 years, and the family started it as a little used car deal, and then got the franchises, and made it through the embargo, and all that stuff, and really did a great job growing the business. And they really were a cornerstone of the community. And hearing the stories of the heyday of the town when coal really drove the economy, and you had multi-generational families working in the mines, making, close to 6-figure incomes, and with all the benefits that come along with it. And, when you have a community that small that generates that kind of income, I mean, the magnitude of wealth in that area was unbelievable. I mean, you hear stories about people coming in and buying cars, every year, coming in and just stroking a check for it. So, I mean, it was really kind of a unique dynamic that growing up in the city of Chicago and started selling cars in Chicago, I could never fathom or really wrap my mind around. And then he just talked about the decline, of people, of course, would get hurt because it is a very risky job. There were a lot of negative health effects of working in the coal mines, black lung, and people getting hurt, and, all kinds of terrible, terrible stuff that's a byproduct of that industry. But, people loved it, and they made a lot of money, and that's what they did. So when you started to see the decline with that, you also saw an increase in opioid addiction. The pill mills in Florida, I mean, the biggest clientele was probably that entire, that Southeast Kentucky, West Virginia area, and they're still battling that issue today, that opioid addiction issue today. So it was really just kind of a wild scene to see something see a town that had just declined so rapidly in a relatively short period of time. Mm-hmm. And I can't, and as I sit here and talk about it, I mean, I get the same feeling now talking about it that I did when I was there, and it's really kind of a feeling of sadness,
Sure. I mean, I imagine that had to be depressing, and at the same time, you wanted to help them. I mean, and for those of you, I mean, most of you haven't read the article yet, and in the article, we definitely talk a lot about some different ways, both with techniques, technology that Latif was able to help this dealership. Like when you're looking around and seeing all this sadness and loss, what kind of cued you on to the opportunities that you were able to utilize to help this dealership to rebound and actually exceed their previous high levels?
Well, the benefit of being in a capitalist economy, obviously, whenever one segment starts to pull back, another segment obviously increases. And you could see that there were still pockets of wealth and people that were doing well. Obviously, you have you did still have a lot of big box stores, and you did have, hospitals and there's a university there, and there's some other opportunities where people could earn a decent wage. And then, of course, there were people that commuted. So you could still see that there were pockets of people that were doing well financially. Mm-hmm. So you had your one side of the tracks, and you had your other side of the tracks. And so, just kind of knowing what you had to work with, and spending a lot of time working in subprime. I mean, obviously, even with the people that are underemployed, there's still an opportunity if you really know subprime and you have the right inventory to sell them cars. And then, of course, if you know how to market and attract and really message and market to the people that are the haves, there's opportunity there as well.
Okay. Well, now, since being that you were able to identify, these different pockets and groups and the haves as opposed to have-not, how did you specifically target them, and how did you deliver a message to them that compelled them to the dealership to come to the dealership and buy a car, and what was that message?
Well, the first couple of times that we had done sales for them, we just went and we did some blanket saturation mail, and that drove just a ton of incremental traffic that the store never would have had opportunity to see. So, of course, we would go in, we would do a staffed event, we'd do a strong direct mail campaign, we'd layer in, we'd reverse engineer and get IP addresses and email addresses, and we would email blast as well. So we would hit them from a couple different channels, the traditional direct mail piece, and then hit them with email. And then, of course, we would drive them in. And then as they came in, we did a really good job of keeping track of the data when the people came in through our CRM and our scan tools. So we knew who we were seeing and who was coming into the store. So the first couple times we did that, we were able to grab some really good data, able to kind of reverse engineer it, find out, what we're looking at, being able to get a good understanding of particular zip codes, neighborhoods, postal routes, who is, what does the demography look like, and what does the psychography look like of these people. So once we had done this a couple of times, then we took it a step further. And, to really get the shebang, then what we did was we layered, in addition to the emails, the direct mail, we would layer in geofencing as well, and we would do some mobile performance, drive them back to the dealership, with an offer, with a compelling offer to bring them to the dealership. So we had consistent traffic. And then at this point, it was just kind of, okay, let's just get what we can get and continue to go through it, right? So we were driving traffic incrementally, hitting people, because even though Pike County itself may have been depressed, we had a lot of people that were coming out of the area to come and buy cars. So the Walmarts, the Home Depots, the Lowe's, the shopping areas where there were some pockets of prosperity, we were geofencing those locations and hitting those people as well. So now we were getting a good idea of where these people lived and where they were coming and going from. So then we started looking at some big unstructured data. Okay, so what is unstructured data? Okay, so people estimate that in the next 3-4 years there's going to be 40 zettabytes of data out there. So that's like, you have hundreds, thousands, millions, billions, trillions. Go 2 steps further, and that's how much unstructured data is out there. That's insurance data, people posting on Twitter, on LinkedIn, posting videos on YouTube. All this information, all this data is out there. And for years and years, whenever somebody presented some sort of tech solution, they would just go out there and they would have a one-size-fit-all type deal. So what we did was we kind of went backwards and we said, look, okay, this is what our clientele looks like based on the overall, and this is the success that we've been able to have with selling these people cars. If we have these cars and this is the financing available based on the incomes and this and that, how do we go after these people? So what we did was we started picking out certain data points. So we've gotten up to about 2,500 different data points that we use in our algorithm to identify the low-hanging fruit. Okay, we look for, as far as predictive analytics is concerned, we look for the low-hanging fruit of people that have either bought a new home, people that have a new driver, people that have an insurance record of a total loss. Some of the other data points, obviously, we keep them proprietary. We keep them confidential due to proprietary nature. But we were able to kind of engineer, what does that ideal customer look like in that market? And based on who they are, where they live, where they work, what are their driving patterns and how will they come? And since we have the geofencing technology, we're also identify where they would shop. So if they have a propensity to drive X number of miles, then you know what? We were comfortable going outside of our primary marketing area to drive these people to the store. So even though the store was in a very economically depressed area, we were able to expand our net outward and go after these people with a target and drive them into the dealership. And so, layering direct mail, kind of the wide net being the direct mail and just email blast, then really targeting these people and going after them using those other algorithms really kind of made kind of the biggest impact, the most measurable impact anyways, because we were able to really control budget and, maximize return, which at the end of the day, I covered all of the expense. So I wanted to make sure that if we were doing it, it paid off in ROI.
Okay. Now, one of the things that when I was speaking to people at Deskins Motors, and also, speaking and seeing and reading your article, there's mention of how the geofencing works. And I know geofencing isn't a brand new thing, but I think to a lot of the people that may be on this webinar, it may be something they've not done before. And another one that is a buzz, and I hear this coming from everywhere in the car space right now, is ringless voicemail is a big deal. Could you maybe elaborate on both of those and maybe start briefly with just a little bit about what they are for the people who may not have experience using them, and then dive a little deeper into the best practice?
Sure, absolutely. Ringless voicemail it's kind of corny, but it is what it sounds like. It is essentially, and I mean, we've probably all gotten one. You'll sit there and your phone doesn't ring, but you have a voicemail. And so you go ahead and you listen, and it's whatever pre-recorded message or a live person that leaves a voicemail on there. Essentially what we do is to avoid violating the Telephone Consumer Protection Act or the DNC list. What we do is we're able to put a voicemail right on the cell phone provider's server. So it's no cost and no trouble to the consumer, so we're under the radar and completely compliant. And we're able to go after people that we don't have a business relationship, a standing business relationship with, and market to them. So when I buy a list and we reverse engineer it to get phone numbers, or we compile a list of all that unstructured data out there, we're able to find those phone numbers and we can do ringless voicemail. So it's almost like going back 15, 20 years in the car business where, if you had a slow Saturday, you pick up the yellow page or the white pages and you start making phone calls. And so that's, that's kind of using new technology to kind of accomplish an old school effective way of doing things. At one of my stores, if we have a slow week, and we pull some data and find some people in our market that have a propensity to buy, we will go ahead and do ringless voicemails, offering to buy their car or offering, a $50 gift card for a test drive or a full tank of gas. And, it's not a huge bang for the buck, but it costs next to nothing. And we get a pretty solid return, and we get our lead, at least we get the phone ringing, so that's probably one of the coolest things that we do that is really, just old school, and I love it. Because I remember when I first started selling cars back in the early '90s, and I had an old timer that I looked up to that I was shadowing, and he said to me, Latif, you want to have 5,000 leads that you can call today? I'm like, 5,000 leads? Absolutely. He said, give me $200 tomorrow, and I'll give you 5,000 leads. So of course, I'm broke, going through college, and, I begged my pops and shake the piggy bank to round up $200, and I give it to him, and of course, he reaches under the desk and pulls out white pages and says, all right, here you go, kid, here's your 5,000 leads, get on the horn. So that's how I learned how to sell cars, bang the phones. So
I was going to say you kind of dated yourself, but I'll say you also dated me. I didn't pay $200, but I definitely got handed a phone book. There's probably half the people on this phone call are thinking, what in the world are they talking about? Those were the good old days, and that actually really did happen. So maybe expand, that's good for the ringless voicemail. Let's maybe talk about the geofencing and actually, and just, and kind of how you're able to utilize, a premium and different ways to make that work really well.
Well, geofencing in a nutshell is it enables marketers to customize audience through pinpoint precision. So, an example, if we're doing a sale or an event at XYZ Chevrolet, and 9 miles away is another Chevrolet store, across the street's a Honda store, across the street's a Chrysler store, we can basically build a fence, a virtual fence around these particular locations, and we have the ability, as long as these people have subscribed to one of the apps, have location services, opt in for Wi-Fi, we have over 4,000 different apps, weatherchannel.com and stuff like that, that we can kind of backdoor into them, and we can send them a message to come to our store. Come to XYZ Chevrolet, take a test drive, get a $25 restaurant.com gift card, or come on in today. We're paying up to $3,000 more than your trade's worth. Whatever the hook that the dealer, the message that we want to push, we're able to do so, and we're able to really target these people. And the beauty of it is once we geofence them, we also can beacon ourselves or mark ourselves so that when we come in, we can see what the conversion rates look like. So picture a busy Walmart on a Saturday. What's the traffic like at that location on any given day, right? But let's take a Saturday in small town America where people are coming in from all over the place. you geofence that location and you put some sort of game out there with a pin code or something that we've put together to have the customer come on in, match their number at the dealership, and win anywhere from a $500 to $500 Walmart gift card. And I'm telling you, you do that, you're going to see 25, 30 incremental ups a day that are passive in the marketplace, so they're not shopping you against TrueCar. They don't know what their used car is worth, or what it's going to take to buy it, or what the interest rates are. And when they come on in, it's like having a fresh, real deal customer that you have the opportunity to catch them up funnel and really start building a compelling case, walk them through the process, get them caught up in the swirl, build value in the product. And if you've done a good job, you may have an opportunity to sell them a car. Now, obviously, your closing percentages in that environment are a little bit less. But once again, when I grew up in the car business, when we had a customer come on the showroom floor, they were an opportunity to do business. I'd rather be belly button to belly button with somebody who may want to buy a car than have to go stand in a coffee circle with the guys who are all negative. So that's really kind of the spin that we put on it. When you layer that in with everything else that we do, it creates incremental opportunity. I mean, at the end of the day, my question is this: how good are your people? How good is your process? And if you had 50 people a day, 60 people a day that were either calling, coming in, or emailing, how effective are you in closing them? And that's why we do the staff side.
Well, probably just about everybody on this webinar reads Auto Success Magazine. You have to realize it's been a common theme, as of late, where, the normal, I guess, run-of-the-mill internet lead that we're also used to, begging them to buy a car, not making any money, spending hours, they're digging their heels. We go to battle, and, nobody leaves happy, and nobody makes any money. There's a new theme that I've been noticing, I'm sure you all have too, and from the different content that you've been seeing in our magazine, is the higher funnel customer, the customer that hasn't shopped the average 18 hours online. Well, all 18 hours online means is they can't make any money. And so, these people that weren't in the market, but then you bring them into the market, these seem like the ones that everybody's looking for right now. And it's like what Latif said. Latif, that's what we used to get all the time. The guys say, hey, you're in my first 3 stores, and if you did a good enough job, you delivered them a car. Right. And now you might as well be the 84th of 84 stores, because they've already, if he's been spending 18 hours online, there's just nothing left in that deal. So let's jump back to Deskins Motors. So you came, you saw, you implemented some changes, you started using technology and processes. Where were you able to get them to? What type of successes did you see? And maybe finish the story for us.
Sure, absolutely. So, so we went in there and we implemented all the things that I mentioned. But at the end of the day, advertising will drive traffic. Salespeople sell cars. And that's where you can see there was a little bit of opportunity for improvement. So, as we went in and we did staffed events, part of my agreement with the family was that I would make sure that I worked with their people, not only on the front end, but also in F&I and in the service drive. So, it was kind of a full service deal, and it was an opportunity for me to really prove myself to the family and continue to grow with them. At the end of the day, every day we did daily training sessions, we did phone training sessions, in addition to working side by side with them and selling cars. And my philosophy has always been, when I've gone in and done these staffed events, and this is a common objection from some of the the prospects or clients that I work with, the pushback is that, well, I don't want to do a staffed event because your guys come in, take over my store, and my guys stand around on the sidelines. Well, I think the reason why we've been able to have such a high level of retaining our clients is because we work with them and work with their people hand in hand. So, we taught by showing, rather than handing them a book or the Grant Cardone videos or whatever. We were actually in there side by side, working deals together and showing them the right way to do it, how to do a proper walk around, how to build value in the product, how to silently underappraise or trade it. The basic stuff that I think a lot of guys have really kind of lost touch with doing. So, that was one thing that resonated. So even after the sales were complete, they would have consistency, at least in their process, that, they had the guys following at least the 4 or 5 steps of the sale right out of the gates, which was a marked improvement in that environment there. F&I numbers increased drastically. We helped them emphasize, a proper menu presentation as part of our sales process at the Best Direct Group. Because I have, I spent, 3-4 years with Jim Moran and Associates. I was a big fan of the JM&A menu presentation. So we implement that when we go out and we do deals because it's, it's compliant, it's non-confrontational, it's a great opportunity to upsell. So we implemented that in their F&I office. They went from, I think, about $550 a car to almost $1,200, $1,300 a car, asking everybody all the time for all the products, and some people say yes, some people say no, but it worked out well. So we did, just those two things. I mean, the people in the process are the biggest thing. I mean, the car is a car is a car is a car. I mean, whether you park a Dodge Ram next to an F-150 next to a Silverado, and I'm sure the diehard fans of those products would fight me tooth and nail. But at the end of the day, it's a utility vehicle that does its job. How good is a salesperson who's presenting the product based on the wants and needs of the client in front of them? So that's where we really help them to excel, in addition to fine-tuning their marketing. So, they weren't ever able to expense their way into a profit, but we were able to help them identify key areas to market. Print advertising in the market was Deadsville. Terrestrial radio was ineffective. So really, considering the way the marketplace was, is we identified key people to go after, and we targeted them, whether it was target direct mail, like I said, for just incremental floor traffic, the geofencing, and then, email. And between those three channels, we were pretty successful. And so how did that, so what does that look like in real numbers? The first sale that we did at Deskins Motors, it was a 10-day sale. We did 110 cars for over $400,000 in gross profit. And this was no money up front to the dealer. I absorbed the expense. Obviously, we eat what we kill, so I took a portion of the money. But at the end of the day, there was no risk to the dealer, and he did $400,000 in gross. So that doesn't take into consideration the fact that we turned aging inventory, any curtailment situation they may have been subject to with their floor plan lender. Obviously, we freed up cash flow for them. And then on top of that, when they were able to go out and acquire new inventory, the right kind of inventory, they bought it at market, and then whatever their fixed operations department was able to generate, that's incremental as well. So it really was just kind of a machine. So we started doing them on a quarterly basis, and at one point, I think we got up to eight times a year. Of course, that first great success of 440,000, I think is what it was, kind of tapered down a little bit as the market went, but we also pulled back on the expense, and we were more efficient in our marketing. So the average sale in that type of environment was anywhere from $250,000 to $300,000, and we did them anywhere between 6 to 8 times a year. So turn inventory, awesome cash flow, store made a bunch of money, everybody was happy, salespeople all the way down. So, I mean, they were able to retain quality employees. As they got better, they didn't leave to go elsewhere. So, I mean, it was just really, selling cars solves all problems, and that's what we did. We sold cars.
Nice. Well, I'd like to invite everybody, please type in your questions. We've got a few questions here, Latif, I'd like to ask you from our audience.
Sure.
How would the use of technology differ from one area to another, if it does?
Well, you can look at the population density and how far your competition is around you. When you're in a rural area like Pikesville, Kentucky, you can spread that wider net as far as your advertising goes, whether it's traditional or on your high-end side, because people are used to driving. It takes forever. I put it like this. When you're in Pikesville, Kentucky, to go from point A to point B as a crow flies may only be 8 miles, but it could be a 30-minute drive. So these people have the propensity to drive, and there's no other game in town. So you can be a little more, I guess, liberal in how you target people out there because they're used to driving. Now, if you're in Alpharetta, Georgia, or you're in, Chicago, Illinois, you have to be careful where you're setting up your fencing. You have to be careful where you're sending your messaging because, A, people won't drive that far, no matter how good the deal is. Maybe they will, maybe they won't, but at the end of the day, it comes back to, do you want to make some money or do you want to go after that passive guy that you can make some money on? So you have to be selective in your area, keep it close to home, and make sure the message reflects the community that you're in, especially in the Chicagoland area, because that's where I grew up. You have a lot of ethnic diversity, and they all have pockets. So depending upon how you're going to send your message, it's not necessarily one size fits all. It's not like ordering off the menu. You got to kind of a la carte it together. And that's, we do that across the country.
Okay. What advantages come from using this technology compared to just one avenue of marketing? What are the advantages of doing all? Actually, I'm going to expand upon that. I see what the person is trying to get to. What are the advantages of doing all the marketing you mentioned as opposed to doing just one piece?
I think when you do, if you have a compelling message and you really want to hammer it in, because remember, we are so overwhelmed with media right now between television, radio. I mean, everything around us is trying to market to us, right? And especially with the smartphones, we're always on them, so we're constantly getting hit. So the key is the key to, or the reason I endorse an omni-channel, multi-channel marketing program is because you want to hit them from all angles. You want to get them and just hit them and hit them again. So, if I'm doing a campaign right now, it's direct mail, it is email, it is ringless voicemail, it is, hitting them on social, and just in keeping a consistent message that is in line with the branding of either the event, the manufacturer's promotion, or the dealership. So keeping it consistent and hitting them a lot of times. I mean, the more impressions that you get, the better chance you have of driving them to you and converting them into a deal. So that's why I endorse that. Rather than just sending them one piece of mail and crossing your fingers, let's hit them as many times as you can. It takes a little more work, a little more money, but it pays off in the end.
All right, actually, we've got a follow-up question that kind of came in while you were answering that. Is it more cost-effective to do the multi-channel? And why?
I don't know that it's necessarily more cost-effective, but if you take a look at the overall return, you're going to sell more cars and make more money. I mean, obviously, there's more expense involved because you can add it up a la carte. I mean, the direct mail costs this, ringless voicemail costs this costs this. I mean, so obviously it's more expense, but the success of the campaign overall is going to be greater.
I got you. So I mean, so effectively, you're going to pay a little bit more per deal, but you're going to have a whole heck of a lot more deals. Is essentially what you're saying.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't want that? And as long as you're making money on every deal, why not?
Absolutely.
Okay. Can you give us other examples besides the Kentucky dealership that was in the article that where a process like this has been successful?
Absolutely. I think I mentioned it the last time we did a webinar. It was the Hyundai store on the West Coast, Oakland Hyundai. Very similar type deal where we went in there and helped. It was the dealer had the store. Anybody who's familiar with Oakland, California, it's kind of going through a renaissance right now, but for many years it was kind of an economically depressed area as well. So now San Francisco is so expensive, you got people moving over the bay. So you've got, burnt out shacks next to, $1 million McMansions, or actually it's West Coast, so they're $5 million McMansions. But it's kind of a unique area. That is a case in point. The one size doesn't fit all. So we had, and especially with as savvy as the buyer is out there. And actually, let me take that back. I'm going to contradict myself. Oakland, California was really a unique challenge in the sense that you had a very savvy buyer and you had someone who probably never had walked into a dealership before. So in marketing to these people, we had to be very specific in how we were going to target the message. So there was a brand new Whole Foods that opened up. Obviously, in an area going through gentrification, we know the type of people that are going to shop at that store. So when we set up the geofencing, we put the messaging out there and identified what we were marketing, who we were marketing to. We had a completely different message than the people that we were marketing to that were shopping at the local grocery store, or if we had a geographic location of a neighborhood of homes that we thought would be good for a subprime message. So, we were able to, because it was such a broad spectrum of wealth to poverty, we were able to really target our message, and we kind of intelligently, like I said, if we were going after the high-end people just on the geofencing, we were going after the Whole Foods and the high-end stores, and then of course, for the subprime message or the first-time buyer message, we were hitting those particular areas, and had a lot of success. Took a store that did $1.2 million in sales gross, and over the course of the 12-month period, we took it almost, I think, $6 million, and just turned the needle. I mean, it was all, it was probably 90% used on the increase, but it was substantial, and dealer had a lot of success, and again, he ended up flipping that store.
Thanks. Do you recommend that every dealership try? And it says these technologies. I'm assuming that would be the ringless voicemail and the geofencing. Do you recommend that would work for every store, and should every store try it out?
If they buy it from me.
Good answer. That's a good answer.
I'm not
seriously,
here.
What would your recommendation be?
Once again, what are the goals and what are the abilities of the store? And, based on that, I would make a recommendation. If you go into a dealership with the salespeople I think ringless voicemail is a great solution for everyone, but the message, I think, needs to be the message needs to fit the ability of the team members at the store. You know, if you have a dealership that has a strong BDC that knows how to take a telephone call the right way, then absolutely we can do a very blanket message that would direct the customer or the prospect to call the dealership, and the BDC can take the call and walk them down the line. I think that'd be great. If so you're going to have obviously more opportunity calling in. If you have a sales staff that is probably not as strong, then I would probably make it a little more of a message that would try to drive the customer into the dealership, so that you would have a physical body to do something with. Because I can't tell you how many great opportunities I've seen missed by salespeople that can't handle the phone, don't know how to, I don't know if you guys all remember Traver Technologies, Traver Tech, which I think is now a CDK company. But I was a Traver Tech guy, did the school, did the whole 9 yards, implemented it in every store I worked in. So, I mean, if I could get somebody to call in, I knew that I had a 50% chance of getting an appointment and a 50% chance of that body showing up. So it really depends on what you have going on in your particular store. But yeah, ringless voicemails I think is a great solution. Also, one of the data services that we're able to provide, because we have so much opportunity, so much information floating around out there, is one of the things that we've recently started doing, Brian, and I don't know that you and I had a chance to really dive into this. We're able to take a dealer's data out of his DMS, go through, clean it, purge it, append it, and identify, follow the car. Is the car still in the home? Is it gone? Was it totaled? Additional drivers, additional cars in the home, and then give that back to the dealer with good, clean data. I'm pulling. We just did a deal real quick. I know I'm veering a little bit, but we did a deal in the Northeast at a Toyota store. We took a 12-month DMS history. He had 12 or 13,000 records that went in there. And of those almost 13,000 records, only about 7,000 of them were pure, meaning standardized auto data, good phone numbers, good cell numbers, good email addresses. So we were able to go in, clean, purge, append, and give them back a good solid 12,000 or so records. And then on top of that, we were able to identify if there were other automobiles in the household, give them some basic demography, age, gender, stuff, income, stuff like that. So we were able to do some of that stuff. And then, of course, once they have all that good data, then a ringless voicemail campaign, especially if they have a fixed operations message or something like that, really helps. That's what I forgot to mention. From a fixed operations perspective, the geofencing and the ringless are awesome. Just awesome, because you can quickly, cheaply, put a message out there like it's nothing.
Actually, you know what? That's actually part of another question that somebody asked. They asked, is it better for new or used cars, and does it have a place in service? You kind of just touched a little on that. You want to maybe expand upon that and let us? I mean, like how does it? I'm actually curious too, because I've not had anybody write about that or do a webinar with me about that. How does it best use in the service department?
Okay, service department, real simple. So as part of standardizing the data, if you take a look and you can see, now if you pull the DS, there's a lot. Let me say this: there's a lot of dealers out there that do a very good job managing their data because they understand the importance of it. But for those dealers that have not paid attention to it, with the billion other things that they have to do on a daily basis, we take the data, we clean it up, and we make sure it's good. And like I said, as far as standardized auto, standardized, name, address, phone number, so on and so forth. You can segment it, okay? You can go through there and you can dig. Let's say last time somebody was in the shop, came in for, a 36,000-mile checkup, they're right out of warranty. You can easily, quickly identify these people. We can do a ringless voicemail email campaign to these people, encouraging them to come on in and either come get their car checked out, pre-warranty completion, post-warranty completion, email followed up with a ringless voicemail to encourage them to call the store with whatever the message you want it to be, whether it's 10% off or some sort of whatever your service hook is going to be. You know what I mean? And you can put that on there, and it compels people to come, to reach back out to you. Also, if you have some sort of texting program in your service department, if you go ahead and leave that ringless voicemail with a text number for them to hit you back at, they will a lot of times will just go ahead and text you back, real simple, set a service appointment right there. Or if you can send them a link to send a service appointment, have a dedicated landing page, reinforcing that offer that you've put together. It takes a little bit of work, a little bit of expense, but it pays off leaps and bounds if you've got the people in your database that you can market to on the fixed operation side. And then, of course, we all know how much of that money falls to the bottom line if you've got your shop structured the right way. So that's a huge, huge opportunity there, and it costs you nothing. On the sales side, whether new or used, I mean, once again, if you're going to hit your DMS and identify opportunities in there, you got all your Silverado buyers, and you've got some big money on the hood for your new cars that are trying to clear out, or the red tag events coming up in October or whatever it is. You hit them back with that message that, hey, listen, we want to buy your car. We need used Silverados. You got $7,500 on the hood, or take 20% off. Text for more information, or text drive, or test drive, or call to get a number on your car. We can appraise it over the phone. However you want to do it, you just got to position it so that it's compelling for the customer to take 2 minutes to either A, call, B, text, or go to a landing page. But you can really cater it. It's really, what are you looking to accomplish in your environment, because it is not one size fit all. It takes some outside of the box thinking. But you can really leverage this technology on a very inexpensive way to do things to create opportunity.
All right. Actually, another question just came in, but I kind of want to ask a question. I mean, do you see ringless voicemail as an effective way, and maybe what kind of stats have you seen for when people decline services? Maybe getting them back a week later and I mean, is that something that you've seen any successes in?
We haven't implemented that in ringless voicemail yet. We've got a direct mail product that we hit them back at. We get a DMS dump from our dealers, and if there's declined service, we'll hit them back with a compelling offer, whether it's a tire or declined brakes or however we do it. We'll sit with the dealer and identify, what type of discount they want to offer to try to drive them back in. We haven't done that yet on the ringless voicemail side of the deal. It's been very much a blanket side. Once again, it depends on the size of your DMS. If you've only had in the last week 5 declines for tires, that's simply your service advisor can pick up the phone and work that deal, assuming he's not, touching too many ROs a day. But, if you've got a service department like, that's writing, 150, 200 tickets a day, and you're going to have that kind of decline activity, you can definitely leverage that and have that individualized message, blanket sent out. But once again, the beauty of it is it's scalable. Yeah, so that's the beauty of it.
Okay. All right, we've got another question here. This one's pretty technical. Are you implementing cluster coding such as Axiom or Prism? What types of segmentation do you recommend? Is that clear?
You know what? The next time we do this, I will, or I'll tell you what, whoever that person is, I'll have my IT person call that guy.
Okay. Actually, you know what?
That's going a little over my head. I have to get the technical people involved on that one.
Yeah, you know what? For that question, everybody on this webinar, you're going to get an email from me thanking you for coming. And just go ahead and reply to that email, and I'll get you in touch with Latif's tech people, and we'll get you an answer for that. Mark, thank you for the question, and we will get you an answer. Just please shoot me an email, and I will get you in touch with the right people. If anybody else has any more questions that you would like to ask, as of right now, Latif, that's our last one. So I'm going to give everybody a couple of minutes here to go ahead and type anything in that you would still like to have us answer today. Latif, is there anything that you would like to share with our audience, that we haven't covered today?
It's, you read automotive news and you see out there that, we are pretty consistent year over year in our sales figures. But if you take a look and you see, just for instance, how much money the factory's now putting on the hood, I mean, we're going to have to gear up and get aggressive, because I think year over year they increased the incentive spending in the month of June by 12 or 13%, and we can see that the numbers on certain manufacturers are starting to fall flat and pull back, and there's a glut of lease inventory that's going to be coming to market in the next couple of years. So we just got to make sure we keep our team sharp, watch our inventory levels, and if you run into a situation where you want a shot in the arm, you got some inventory you need to clear out, and you don't feel confident enough to spend the money yourself, I'll spend the money on the marketing. Give me a call. We'll take a look at your market, and I'll give you some thoughts on what we can do together. And at the end of the day, it costs you nothing.
Great, everybody. I hope you enjoyed what we covered today. I hope everybody learned something. And Latif, I thank you for taking the time out of your day to share all this good information with us. Keep an eye on your mailbox. Latif on the cover of Auto Success will be arriving in the next few days. This webinar was recorded, so if there's something in here that you feel that somebody else in your dealership or your dealer group might benefit from seeing, as I said, you'll get an email from me, thanking you for coming. Just reply, and I'll get you a copy of the recording. Latif, what's your email address in case anybody would like to reach out to you with any further questions or more information?
Sure, it's Latif, Latif, at bestdirectgroup.com.
Thank you. Well, everybody, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to join us today on this Auto Success webinar. Thank you, Latif, for coming. Hope to have you back here real soon. Hey, everybody, have a great afternoon, and I hope to see you again here soon. Bye-bye.
All right, guys, take care. Thanks.